Hey guys, it's Dorr with Tactical Hyve. Today's video, we're going to be doing a review on the Glock 19 Gen 5. Stay tuned. All right guys, we're back. Today's video is all about the Gen 5 Glock 19, which is a striker fire offering. If you're living in that striker fire world, I highly recommend picking up a dry fire mag. We use dry fire mags here at the channel. We also used them at my last job. Dry fire mags are awesome because you go ahead, just insert it like a regular magazine, make sure it's locked in, and you're off to the races. The magazine resets the trigger for you so you can focus on trigger control and getting good reps. Without it, what are you gonna have to do? Right? You're gonna have to rack every single time, which is, impedes training. It's not the deal. So again, guys, highly recommend them. Go ahead and check them out in the link below, and be sure to use code TACHYVE at checkout for $10 off. All right, let's get to the Glock. All right, guys, we're back. And today's video, like I said, it's all about the Glock 19 Gen 5. I think the Glock 19 of all the models is definitely the best seller. I think that's due to its perfect size. It's not too big, it's not too small. It just kind of fits that niche that gets a lot of jobs done. I've used Glocks in my previous job overseas and in training. I was a trainer with these. When NSW switched from the SIG P226 to the Glock 19, I was there during that transition, and it went fairly easy. I was actually pretty nervous, seeing as I was the guy that was, kind of tasked with making it happen. And honestly, man, these things are great. This is Gen 5 is the latest offering. I do use it for teaching classes, as well as in a CCW configuration. But we're not really here to talk about me. We're here to talk about this particular firearm. And honestly, what makes it most unique is the fact that it is a Gen 5. So kind of a funny story. The FBI, which is, kind of the biggest of our federal law enforcement agencies, decided they wanted a new gun. So this is a better part of a decade ago or so. They decided that they wanted the new hotness, which was the SIG P320 series. So they created a requirements page for this new gun because it has to go out to bid, fair's fair. And it was basically, they described the SIG P320, which is a very different gun than a Gen 4 Glock. So Glock got a hold of the requirements page, and they literally rebuilt their platform to meet all of those requirements. And that became the M, or Model 19, for federal law enforcement. But you and I know it as the Gen 5. So this thing came to be in order to out SIG, which they did successfully in this instance. SIG got them back with a much larger military contract, but that's another story for another day. And we've got the Gen 5. The Gen 5 has ambidextrous controls, though my slide stop on the right side has been taken off. It has a rebuilt trigger, which I believe is a big step up from the Gen 4. The Gen 4 was the last pistol that I was issued at my last job. Still a good gun, but that trigger just a little bit on the mushy side, especially coming from the P226 line. I mean, those triggers are just amazing. So I really like the trigger on the Gen 5. They also got rid of the finger grooves, the inject mold on the frame finger grooves, to make it more universal for different hand sizes. It's got this new stippling job. It's pretty good. I have no problems with it riding against my skin on an inside the waistband type carry. They went ahead and put this moon right here on the front. That's in case a magazine gets stuck. You can get your finger in here and rip it out. It's a cool addition. Also, the magazine well is beveled for easier access, during times of strife or panic. Every little bit helps. I had to change the sights out on my Glocks, Glock standard sights, especially the really basic ones I'm not a fan of. The tritiums, they're fine, they work. I used them for a lot of years. I had, at the time of getting this pistol, a Glock 43, and I ran the Trigicon XDs on there. I was a big fan of them. I think they're great for subcompact, CCW type platforms. I went ahead and threw them on here, And they're good for what they are. You know, they have a really wide U-notch rear sight and a big fat front sight so that you can get on target from the holster during actual real-world application, which is a very scary, very tense situation. But when you're on the range trying to teach or, you know, have fun, they're not very accurate. You know, they're very wanting in that department. So I've been meaning to switch them out, but I just have so many guns I haven't gotten around to it. Anyway, but for CCW, they are great sights. You know, you can run any configuration of light on here. They pretty much all fit. This one's not cut for a red dot, but you know, again, an easy upgrade. I've had this thing for about 4 years now, put at least 4,000 or so rounds through it, and the thing has never failed me. It didn't really have much of a break-in period. Honestly, I've had Gen 3s and I was issued a Gen 4, and I think this one is definitely a step up. Very reliable, very robust. I did not mind the finger grooves with or without gloves. They're just something that I always just dealt with. I never bothered to have them, you know, professionally removed and, you know, professional stippling and all that. Some guys are really into that, and it is cool. It does work. I have shot those, but it's not something I ever really got around to. This Gen 5 frame does all that kind of for you. You know, if you're into that, you don't need to go and have that customization done. Though if you want to, by all means, you know, you do you. It's just not something I'm really that worried about. As far as shooting, it's a Glock 19, you know? A buddy of mine who worked for Glock for a number of years, he referred to them as shovels. You know, they're shovels. They just work. They just work. And this one is definitely the best out-of-the-box model I've ever shot. And Glocks are also the best-selling handgun on earth. Best-selling rifle or intermediate cartridge shoulder weapon are the AK series, AK-47s. And I believe they both are best-in-class dominant forces for the same reasons. They are cheap and reliable. I mean, this thing, even in inflation ridiculous 2023, is retailing for under $600. When they first came out in the 80s, I believe Gaston Glock wanted to sell them for as little as $200, but his team, we'll call them, said, oh, no, we're gonna go $400. And they did, and you know, the rest is history. But this thing is a very reliable, very affordable option. It's generally my recommendation to new shooters, people that are getting into pistols, people that are looking for a do-it-all versatile platform that they can carry, that they can defend their home with, that they can go and shoot and have fun with. I think these things do all of those things very well. And again, I think the Gen 5 is definitely worth it. Even if you have the previous generations, you know, like I do and have used, I think picking up one of these is definitely worth it. You know, it does have some downsides to it. You know, they aren't incredibly accurate. Yes, the Gen 5 trigger is the best stock trigger of the bunch, but it's not a good trigger. You know, it's not great compared to the other stuff, but the other stuff you're gonna pay more. You know, if you want the higher end triggers on the new SIG P320s, you're gonna pay for it. You want a spring for a CZ or a P2 something series SIG, you're gonna pay for it. And there is customization that you can do to these. There are other trigger options. We were just out at SHOT Show, and they have a drop-in Gen 5 trigger that's considered like more of a match grade option. We tried it out. Not as good as some of the purpose-built aftermarket triggers, but even better than this one, I think. And Glock stands by their reputation for reliability if you stick with their products. So something to think about if you are going to use this thing in any kind of not fun or pleasurable application. You just need these things to work, and honestly, the Glock is that incarnate. I mean, these things are extremely reliable. There's never any issues. You can take them in the mud, you can take them in the sand, you can take them in the surf, and they just work. The loose tolerances, you know, maybe sacrifices a little bit on the accuracy side, but I mean, it's a handgun. So what are we talking about here? As far as reverse compatibility, not a whole lot you can swap out on these with previous generations. The magazines, though, are completely interchangeable. Any Glock mag, any Glock pattern mag, be it made by whomever, Magpul, etc., are going to work in these, and they work just fine. I've never had any issues mounting lights or anything like that onto these. I've never switched the mag release around to the other side. on any of my guns. I did it for somebody else's, and they work exactly the same. No issues, no problems. And you can run the slide release on either side or pick a side. I just went with the left side, but to each their own. All right, guys, so that was my quick down and dirty. You know, my reviews aren't really technical. I'm an end user. It's all about, will it work, how does it work, and how to make it work for you. I started off, I think on my second deployment, I found a 40 millimeter ammo can in, I believe it was an Al Assad, completely filled with Glocks and mags. So I liberated that box and I passed them out to my platoon. It was we were driving around the desert quite a bit back then, just going to or fro, getting into adventures, meeting people. It was a lot of fun, and a lot of us ended up running those Gen 3 stock Glocks, and they worked great out in that environment. And I mean, we were literally overlanding in Western Iraq through moon dust, you name it, and the guns just ran. That was my introduction to Glock, really. I purchased a few after that, you know, kind of got to know them a little bit more. And then in the very end of my career, probably 2018-ish, 19-ish, we actually switched from the PT-26 to the Glock 19 Gen 4. Yeah, they're a different type of gun, different class, different price point, but man, to hell and back reliability, and guys are able to customize them as they see fit, you know, if that's what they choose to do. Anyway, I hope this review helps, you know, for a mid-size 9mm do-it-all pistol. I think this one's as good as any. It's a great starting point. And honestly, if you fancy yourself a shooter, you should definitely have Glocks and you should train with them because they're so common, they're everywhere. It all comes down to you being the best you can be. If that involves you having to pick up somebody else's platform and put it to work, you don't want to be doing that for the first time in the heat of the moment. So just for that reason, I recommend training with Glocks. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents. This is Dorr with Tactical Hyve. If you like the content, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I'll see you next time. Out.